In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone Eli and Gerhard Mathangani.
It is official. Another school in the SEC will be looking for a new head coach. Auburn has officially parted ways with head coach Hugh Freeze. 15-19 with the Tigers, an abysmal game Saturday offensively. Just 3 points in a loss to Kentucky. And the Hugh Freeze era is now out after 2+ seasons on the Plains. Hugh Freeze now done with another opening in the SEC. Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. I'm Gerhard Mathangani, joined by Patrick Walsh. And this is a story that we've followed for a while as far as what Auburn was going to be able to do offensively after the win over Arkansas. And the question was, is that a sign of some good things to come, or was it a blip on the radar? It unfortunately looked like the latter on Saturday.
Yeah, and honestly, you could make the argument that the defense won the game against Arkansas,
Yes.
forcing 4 turnovers.
Right.
And Ashton Daniels only completed 6 passes for 77 yards. Ashton Daniels gets the start again against Kentucky. We talked about it last week. You were definitely shocked that Auburn was an 11.5-point favorite in that game, and it turns out that they just could not get anything going offensively. And honestly, at that point, it was like, okay, a move had to be made. I think I said the loser of that game might be firing their head coach.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for Hugh Freeze, it's the end of the road for him here. But you were just waiting on edge to see if Auburn could get something rolling
100%.
This year, just because, as you mentioned, that defense has been so good.
Yes.
And you're waiting. You're waiting, and it just did not happen this year.
Yeah, and you talked about the defense. I think such a great point is the fact that he wasn't fired because the team is not good enough. It clearly is talented, and the problem came when the offense could not get anything going, and they changed their quarterback. They flipped around their offensive line. The receivers have a good receiving core. They had brought in a transfer in Eric Singleton Jr.
Yes.
Obviously, still have Perry Thompson. You have Ashton Daniels is the backup quarterback, but you also have different playmakers there at wide receiver, the offensive line. They just couldn't ever get rolling offensively or find anything that worked. It felt like last year when things failed in the passing game, obviously, then you could run the football with Jarquez Hunter. Well, this year, Damari Alston is now kicked off the football team. Jeremiah Cobb was injured for a little bit to start the season, and then he got hurt. Or then he started, got rolling a little bit. But it just felt like every lever that Hugh Freeze pulled, none of them turned this thing on.
Yeah, and I mean, Jeremiah Cobb, he had that great game against Arkansas, running for over 150 yards, and then you would expect him to continue that momentum into Kentucky, and it just did not happen. I mean, I think it's just the way that the game went down. The fact that it was at Jordan-Hare Stadium, and just you put up 3 points in front of your home crowd against a Kentucky team that just gave up 30 points the week before to a good Tennessee team.
Right.
But still, the fact that it's a home game, and when the defense only allows 10 points, you got to win.
You got to win those games.
You just have to.
Right, especially against Kentucky. And as you mentioned it, one of their weaknesses going into the game was not being able to defend against the pass. Joey Aguilar lit them up. Just about every quarterback so far has been able to light up the secondary for Kentucky, and they're just not able to get over that hump there. So this is obviously a story that we will continue to talk about and follow over the course of the next 2 hours here. Also on our show today, we have 3 special guests, and obviously one of the two people at least are super excited to talk about their football teams. Roger Wallace and the Texas Longhorns ended up coming away with the win. So did the Oklahoma Sooners, a big win this past weekend as well. We'll talk with Holden Cruzmark, and Corey Curtis will join us as well from the Next Star Nation out of Nashville. And these are our topics for today. Hugh Freeze, once again, we will dive deeper into that situation as Auburn now looks for another head coach for this is now the 3rd time in 5 years. Hugh Freeze now out at Auburn. Texas fending off Vanderbilt at home, able to get a big win there in Austin over a top 15 team. Mike Shula is out as South Carolina's offensive coordinator. And the college basketball season tips off tonight. We have made it.
We have made it.
The last time we saw the ball bouncing was at the NCAA tournament, and the Florida Gators ended up cutting down the nets there in San Antonio. They'll be in action tonight. Auburn, Alabama, a new era at Auburn with Stephen Pearl not taking over for his head coach in Bruce Pearl. So lots to talk about here. New era for the basketball team. It will be a new era for the football team there as well, Patrick. And when you break down what he was able to do with the Tigers, able to get a lot of prospects. Auburn had a top 10 recruiting class, I think, almost every year he was there. Top 20 for sure. Top 10 this past year. So the talent was there, but the results on the field simply were not there, especially there on offense.
No, and I mean, you can break college coaches down into one of three categories. You could be a great recruiter, you could be a great on-field coach, and then you could also be a great leader.
Correct.
And it felt like Hugh Freeze was great at recruiting, just unable to put a product on the field on the offensive side that could win you ball games. I mean, you've said it many times. I think I've said it a few times that Auburn's defense is good enough to win an SEC title.
100%.
It's just the other side. If you could just get an offense going, then, I mean, honestly, we could be talking about Auburn being up there with, we might have an Iron Bowl for the SEC championship. Play them 2 weeks or back-to-back games.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, essentially playoff games for Auburn. They're just not able to get it done now. So the question now is, where does Auburn go next? Because this is a really interesting market, so to speak, for college coaches, and it's almost starting to get saturated just how many jobs will be open coming up in the offseason here. And for a lot of teams, they're already starting their search. Back on October 19th, Florida fired Billy Napier. Last week we saw Brian Kelly also
3 weeks in a row.
And now it's the third week in a row. It is for third week for LSU, Florida, and Auburn. And then earlier in the season, it is now Arkansas also looking for a head coach as well. With that graphic up there, I am interested in your thoughts on how would you rank these jobs, and that's given everything, given the expectations, given what you're, being able to get as far as resources and money and whatnot. We kind of played this game for fun a couple weeks ago with Trade Air, but now it's, if you're a head coach on the market now and you get all four offers, which one is the most enticing?
I'm going to shy outside the box here a little bit.
Okay.
If we're going to go by expectations, recruitment pool, and the desire to win, so to speak, I feel like I have to put Florida at number one.
Okay.
I mean, LSU won in 2019.
That's right.
So yeah, that's starting to, by the time next season rolls around, that's going to be 7 seasons ago. Florida's getting impatient.
Very.
And they've seen what their basketball team's doing.
Right.
Their baseball team's poised to have another good year this year. So something's got to give for the football program, so to speak.
Right.
And I know that they're going to go hard at Lane Kiffin, but as I'll say later on the show, there's a reason why I don't think Lane Kiffin's going to go anywhere this year.
Okay.
But just, the recruiting pool there as well. Florida is loaded.
Absolutely.
They've got high school talent all over the place.
Right.
And I think I don't know if I've said this on the show before, but the fact that my Syracuse Orange are able to pluck a wide receiver basically out of your backyard means something's got to give there in Gainesville. And I think they've got to find a guy that can basically fill the culture.
Yes.
It felt like Billy, I don't want to say he was like Brian Kelly trying to fake it till you make it, but it just felt like Billy was just a little bit too calm, relaxed, just like meh.
Right.
And honestly, I think his stubbornness led to his firing because he just
100%.
wouldn't give up the play calling.
Yep. He never gave up the play calling, and you're right. He couldn't ever manage it, and then it felt like the adjustments couldn't be made. As soon as things would go sour, there were no adjustments there. I'm right there with you. I think obviously LSU comes with a lot of heat, but I mean they have fired championship winning coaches. I mean, Les Miles won a championship, he got canned. Ed Orgeron won a championship, he got canned. Auburn did the same thing too, though. A couple years after Gene Chizik won a national championship, he got canned. Gus Malzahn, who was riding shotgun for that championship run, he also got let go as well. Florida, you mentioned it. It's been a long time since Florida has won a championship. They have national championship aspirations. They did so with Steve Spurrier. He brought home championships. They did so with Urban Meyer. He brought championships, and they've been starving for a long time since then. We have had Will Muschamp, and we've had Dan Mullen, and now Billy Napier kind of going through. It almost feels like a turnstile right now at Florida. I agree with you on the Florida take because Florida and the LSU have a lot of similarities as far as the culture and the people, but also the recruiting, which is a key thing as well. Is good to be able to get guys that are right there in your backyard. So Auburn now turns to DJ Durkin as the interim head coach now, and you mentioned it. Durkin is one of these guys that his defense has been outstanding this year, and I think it's something that he can carry on, even though it's Auburn's looking it doesn't look great for the Tigers as far as postseason, but as of right now, it looks like DJ Durkin can be that guy.
Yeah, and I feel like Auburn is going to start trending towards an interesting crossroads here because now you have DJ Durkin as your interim head coach,
right,
and that defense is so good, but the dangerous game you play now is I have a feeling that Durkin's going to leave Auburn once they hire a head coach, and if it's not him, I feel like he could go be a head coach somewhere else.
For sure.
It might be one of those coaching carousels where it's like a trade, let's say, for example, Auburn hires John Summerall.
Right.
And then DJ Durkin goes over to Tulane. So that's just the one thing I feel like Tiger fans have to be a little bit concerned about is, yeah, you've had a great defense under him, but is he going to stay or is he going to try to make that jump again? I know things didn't really work out for him up in Maryland,
right,
but I bet you he wants another crack at it.
For sure. He wants that rehab. And I think Auburn was here before a couple of years ago when Auburn finally got rid of Brian Harsin.
Yes.
They brought in Cadillac. Cadillac had obviously he's got a different relationship with Auburn than DJ Durkin does because Durkin's only been a coach there. But Cadillac was a former player, won that Texas A&M game. There was a lot of love for him, but I think a lot of people thought, okay, he's not ready for an SEC head coaching job. He did a great job filling in and, obviously reinvigorated the fan base. Right. So you think even with a strong run there at the end, you think that Auburn still looks for another guy with experience moving forward, or can they rip off the interim tag? I
mean, there's definitely the possibility that they do rip off the interim tag just because I'm sorry, Auburn fans, how are you going to compete with LSU and Florida to get the guy you want? I'm pretty sure John Summerall is going to be the second most sought-after coach behind Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
And if Lane doesn't go anywhere, then how are you going to beat out Florida or LSU for Summerall? So, I mean, you can run the table. There is the possibility of that.
Right.
But it's just, do you want a defensive coach when the main problem has been your offense?
Has been offense, exactly. And you'll take a situation where if, let's just say there's a genius offensive mind that's there, then maybe that does work out. But I'm right there with you. But, yeah, you're right. Auburn's road, if they are to pull up some big wins here, it would be interesting because they're at Vandy this week. Then they play at home against Mercer and then host Alabama, of course, in the Iron Bowl. So there are some kind of gettable games as far as like the Tigers want to think about. But they're 4-5 overall, so they still have to win a couple games in order to be bowl eligible. Now I think with a 5-7 record, you still have you have to cross your fingers that everything works out as far as with the NCAA to be able to go to a bowl game. But the guy that will be making the decision moving forward for the Auburn Tigers is John Cohen. And Cohen's obviously came from Mississippi State. He knows the SEC really well. But this is probably, we saw what happened at LSU. This is probably his biggest decision.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, as you mentioned, we saw what happened at LSU and the governor stepping in to give his comments about the whole situation. But, I mean, this is a major point in John Cohen's career here.
Right.
I mean, he just had Stephen Pearl. It felt like that was like the changing of the guard was slowly happening towards the end of last season. Now it's boom or bust for him because Auburn is presumably going to have a good men's basketball team this year. They'll probably it's expected that there will be some regression, losing all of those seniors, but there's also some hope that Todd Pettiford grows into a bigger role. But now with this program, the fan base is dying.
Oh, absolutely.
For some success.
Yes, no question.
This is a major decision.
No question. And the AD picking a head coach, as you said, is always the biggest thing, especially in the money-making sport of football. Cohen spoke just moments ago at Auburn. Here he was on the decision.
And, of course, with the new portal period coming up that was just changed recently, I think that is a consideration as well, but certainly as close to following our last game as possible is ideal. But are candidates that you're talking to still playing at that time? What are they playing for? Are they in the CFP? Are they in a bowl? I would assume that every single candidate that we're going to speak to outside of this building is going to be in that situation. So we're going to work as quickly as we possibly can to try and get it done as quickly after the Iron Bowl as possible. It was just the general inefficiency of our offense, especially in fourth quarters. I think you find out a lot about your team and when you watch a fourth quarter offense. Are they going to attack the game and say, we're down a score, we're going to get this done? For whatever reason, that was not happening offensively during the course of the season, and that was something that was noticeable. Everybody in this room noticed that, and that's something that's got to change, and it's got to change quickly.
So there's John Cohen. He will make the decision on who will be the next head coach, but he talked a lot about the Auburn offense and what led to the decision of firing head coach Hugh Freeze. DJ Durkin will take over as the interim coach as the Auburn Tigers head over to Vanderbilt for their first game in the DJ Durkin era, looking to close out the season on a strong note. Stay with us here on Southeast Sports Plus. We head out to Austin, Texas, talk some Longhorns football with our good friend Roger Wallace. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus on hour number 2 here. We're pleased to be joined by our good friend Parker Ream. And Parker, this is one of the most interesting times of the year. We were talking during the break about this crossover period between football and basketball. There is a lot to dive into with Texas A&M basketball because there is some connections with us here in the state of Alabama with the new head coach there and Bucky McMillan. But, of course, we want to start with the football team who still has a 0 by the loss column, expected to be in the top 3 tonight when the first college football rankings come out. What did you make of where this Texas A&M football is right now as it relates to where they will stand upcoming in tonight's polls and as they move forward throughout the course of the season?
Yeah, I think their resume stacks up pretty well in terms of where they should be in those polls. And I think what you look at is, are they going to be 3 or are they going to be 2? And I think that's the biggest question. They probably won't be number 1. I think Ohio State's probably got that locked up. But does the committee think that this resume stacks up impressively enough to overtake Indiana? And I think it does, but that might be some bias down here in Central Texas. So I think a win against Mizzou would definitely bolster that resume a little bit. Even without Bo Prabula, I still think that this is a very solid Missouri Tigers team. And I went to Mizzou, so I know a little bit about the Tigers. Been following them for quite a long time. So I think that this would really catapult Texas A&M into that discussion of these guys should be one of the front runners, if not the front runner for a national championship.
Absolutely. And you mentioned them or Indiana. I think so too. Indiana probably has the best win. Obviously, getting that win there on the road against Dan Lanning and company. But I think the body of work to me, over the course of these 8 games so far, I would give the edge to Texas A&M there, as well as you look ahead to this Missouri football game. Obviously, with Perbula out, they'll go back to the ground, but they probably have one of the best running backs in the entire country in Ahmad Hardy, and a really good running game. What do you expect to see of this defense as they move forward going into this matchup in Columbia?
They definitely have their work cut out for them. And we talked about it, I think, a few weeks ago about Ahmad Hardy just being one of those top runners in the SEC and potentially being on Heisman watch. Yes. And I think it's almost – could we say that it's a Heisman watch kind of competition with Marcel Reed and Ahmad Hardy, right? You got maybe a Heisman game for either of them. And I think it boils down to the fact of whether Texas A&M can stop the run. And if they can, I think they got a great chance at winning this game. But they also haven't done that all year. They had some issues at the beginning of the year. They've really shored that up in the past few weeks. But it's whether they regress back into that against one of the nation's top running backs, and I think that's what we're going to have to watch for on Saturday.
Absolutely. On the other side of the ball, Marcel Reed, nearly 2,000 passing yards. Obviously, they had a great ground game there as well to help balance it out. This guy just continues to look more and more impressive, and his Heisman odds just keep getting slimmer and slimmer as far as going up the ranks on that. What do you just make of what he's been able to do so far? Obviously, the huge game against LSU, or what I like to call the Brian Kelly can game. And so, this is a player that just seemingly, whatever way it needs to be done, he can take care of the load.
Yeah, I think he really likes playing LSU too. He's had some very quality starts against. I mean, and he didn't even start against LSU last year. He came in for Connor Wigman when the offense just wasn't rolling, and then ran for 3 straight touchdowns. So I think maybe there is something about playing the Tigers that really gets him fired up, but he has been able to do it in every single way that he needs to, whether it's winning the game off of an opening drive against Auburn and then letting the defense do the work and maintaining the ball, kind of keeping the ball, keeping possession, letting the defense make stops when they need to, or whether it's going out and just putting up 40 plus points every week. I think this offense really does have that potential, and they've shown it all year.
Absolutely. We got a chance to hear from head coach Mike Elko this week about this year's team and being able to get some more experience after the bye.
I think we got rest and recovery. I think that was the goal in terms of how fresh we are. I don't know. Obviously, energy is high because of the situation that we're in. If we were 3-5, I'm sure we would feel more tired. We would feel more fatigued. We wouldn't have as much energy going about our daily business. And so that plays a role for sure. And so I think it's hard to compare how fresh we really are. But certainly the bye came at a really good time for us as we head into this November stretch. And it was good to kind of unplug and recharge.
Parker, I find it a little bit interesting because the ESPN FPI only has Texas A&M sitting at an 8.5% chance to win out. And, I mean, I wonder if it's because you're going to Austin and maybe some respect here for Mizzou. What do you make? Do you think the Aggies could somehow, finish the season 12-0?
I think it's tough in the SEC. I think that's maybe the reason why the percentage is so low is you rarely have, especially the teams that aren't the Alabamas or the teams that aren't the Georgias that finish undefeated in SEC play. But even in recent memory, I don't think the SEC champion hasn't had a loss, Right. So I think that's probably why. But also, I think the schedule also stacks up pretty well for A&M should they take care of business. Like South Carolina's not an easy opponent by any stretch, but they probably should win that game. Mizzou, they probably should win that game. Even down in Austin, I think they should win that game. But, that Lone Star Showdown I don't know how to swing it, really. I don't know how to predict it. I don't know what's going to happen. Down in Austin, it's a rowdy environment. I think that's what a lot of people are skeptical about, but certainly going to be a good one down there on Black Friday.
No question. And I think also, too, another kind of a looking forward situation in going into that Texas matchup. Let's just say Texas A&M is 11-0. And they're in. I mean, they're in guaranteed.
Yeah,
and let's say Texas is, fighting for their lives. I can see a situation like that where Texas comes up with that big win. They're in Austin. Another big road game for this team. The last two times Texas A&M has gone on the road, obviously the 42 points to Arkansas, 25 to LSU, respectable, but that has not been an offense that was really humming at all. What do you make of this team just going back on the road, being road warriors once again? I know there's a bye week there in between, but it was a weird scheduling situation for Texas A&M because he had so many home games to start and then now going on the road.
Well, it's good that they've been able to get it done in the early season. I think that gives them some confidence going into this road game. Like, hey, we've done this before. Let's just go do it again. And last year, Mizzou came on the road to College Station. I actually went to that one as a fan, as a Missouri Tigers fan, and there was a lot of Aggie fans that didn't know that, this guy actually works in this market. So they were treating me the other way, where I was a Missouri Tigers fan. I was like, hey, I'm going home all the same in Central Texas. But, that win ended up slanting towards Texas A&M, and they really just beat the brakes off of Mizzou. I think now that same opportunity poses itself for the Tigers, where they're in that position where they're not being viewed as the favorite in this game. And I think that's what Texas A&M had last year. They had that underdog mentality. So I think that's what they have to overcome this week on the road is we should be viewed as the underdogs because people still are doubting us, even though we're 8-0.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's flip over to the basketball court now. Texas A&M, obviously, with a new coach in town, Bucky McMillan, coming all the way. We played each other in high school basketball. He played at a school down the road. Absolutely. Yeah,
That's awesome.
He played at Mountain Brook. I played at Homewood. He was an unbelievable basketball player, a great mind also, too. We lost connection a little bit in college, then picked right back up when he started back as a coach on the high school ranks. He took it to Sanford, and now he's there at Texas A&M. What has been your impression so far of Bucky Ball, and what does it look like so far there in College Station?
I think as you've grown accustomed to seeing, Bucky Ball is something that we haven't seen in Central Texas, whether it's been Baylor or Texas A&M. That's not the type of style that either of these teams run with, is just getting as many shots as possible, getting as many looks, because Bucky says it, if the percentages line up, the math works out to if you take more shots, you have a bigger probability of making more shots.
Right.
So I think that's something that we saw in the season opener last night, is you're getting a lot of shots, but also the amount of bench points that they scored, 50-plus bench points coming from. So really just scoring production was coming from not just the starters, which is what we were accustomed to seeing in College Station with Buzz Williams at the head. It was really just the starting five and then maybe a couple players off the bench that would pop off for 10 or 12 points. But you see it right here. That was what I was going to mention. Ruben Dominguez coming, the Spaniard from overseas. Bucky McMillan called him one of the best shooters he's ever seen.
Wow.
And I think that's something to take note of, is 4 of 7 from three-point range. One of their players, Marcus Hill, told us ahead of the season that they walked in, the first time they ever saw him shoot, he's made 80 of 85 three-pointers. Everybody stopped their workout to watch this guy shoot. Even Bucky just stopped and watched. And we asked Ruben if that was true, and he's like, yeah, that's pretty normal. So I think this team has a lot of great role players. I think the synergy is what we saw last night and what they could be, which could make them a dangerous team come tournament time. You know, that depth really pays off.
I was looking at the box score a little bit, and I know you were talking about the depth there, but there was one stat line that kind of surprised me a little bit. Pop Isaacs really didn't seem to like he was doing too much. I mean, he had the 2 great years at Texas Tech, went to Creighton last year, helped lead them to the tournament. And then I also look at another former Texas Tech guy, Federico, and it didn't really seem like they were doing much either. So was it just the other guys were just on a heater and they just didn't really get in and play, or was it just off games?
Yeah, I think that was more of just other guys being on a heater, and when it's their night, it's their night. And they made plays, but Pop Isaac's also been rehabbing that injury, and
right.
in his first game back. I mean, I guess they played some exhibition games, but even during warmups, we didn't really know what his role was going to be and how, if he was 100% heading into that game. So I think for him, at least, it was maybe a slow approach into that game. Gotcha. And Federico made some plays, but I think, yeah, you'll see more of them come the middle of the season and once we get into SEC conference play. But
we don't want another Jaden Ott situation. That's just what I was trying to bring up, because the last time we were talking about it was like, Jaden Ott, he's not playing much. What's going on here? We don't want another one of those situations.
Yeah, and then it never really came into fruition. Parker, what is a reasonable expectation for this year's team? Obviously, a brand new coach. All these guys getting to know one another in a brand new system. From your perspective, following the sport for as long as you have, and from the fans that are out there that just really maybe like this style of ball, what are some reasonable expectations, especially being in a league as tough as the SEC?
I think reasonable expectations would be to make the NCAA tournament. If they could do that in Bucky's first year, I mean, they only have one returning player from last year's roster. So having to build that from scratch, I think, is something maybe you expected a little of from Bucky McMillan. Just coming in as a new head coach to a new program, you get a lot of transfers in this day and age. But I think building that synergy and being able to instill your offense, that Bucky ball, into College Station is something that isn't an easy feat. So I would say NCAA tournament, if they could make it to the Sweet 16, that's something that A&M hasn't been able to get over the hump. They haven't been able to get past the round of 32 in a couple of years now. And that's something that led to Buzz Williams going to Maryland, and a lot of fans maybe saying maybe Buzz isn't the answer. I think a lot of fans are looking towards Bucky ball being the answer. And we'll just see if that comes to fruition.
Absolutely. It's certainly thrilling basketball to watch. You'll have a lot of fun covering that basketball team as they move forward. Parker, thank you so much for joining us here on Southeast Sports Plus today. We appreciate your insight.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Parker Ream joining us from Waco. He has a really fun basketball team to cover. And probably maybe a top 2 team, depending on the way the polls stand tonight.
Honestly, you could make the argument that Texas A&M can jump Indiana. Yes. It's just I don't know if they will. I think 3 is a good spot for them right now. I don't see Indiana also losing out. I think their hardest game on their schedule now is Maryland.
Right.
Which our friend Noah Gross will say that's the easiest game that they'll play.
That's a guaranteed game. But we've seen upsets in and around college football. Just look at your alma mater and West Virginia pulling off a big upset.
They finally won a game.
Exactly, pulling off a big upset there. So nothing is completely over in football, although it looks that Indiana has sealed up that maybe number 2 spot. We'll find out in a few hours. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, we will close up shop here on a Tuesday. We are back here on Southeast Sports Plus. Lots to get into as far as the week that was in college football. Lots of great results. I think one of the most interesting results here, Patrick, was over in Austin. We had a top 25 matchup with Texas going up against Vanderbilt, kind of a litmus test, so to speak, for the Texas Longhorns after kind of a slower start towards the beginning of the season at least. And we got our friend Roger Wallace on the line with us here. Roger, a big lead for Texas here in this one. I think a lot of people were shocked, and then held off a really strong run by the Commodores, 34-31 the final. What'd you make of not only Archer's performance, but the Longhorns in general getting a big win over a top 10 team?
Yeah, it was kind of two different moments. The 34-10 lead, the 34-31 final score with 2 onside kicks. The second one, kind of squibbing out of bounds with Vanderbilt players grasping for it, or they had the ball. And I honestly, guys, the way that Texas defense was gassed, I wouldn't have been surprised if they not only tied it but won it with a touchdown. So best offensive performance by Arch Manning when you think about what he did against a pretty good defense, and then Eli Sowers was a beast at the end. But Texas seems to have found a little something in their offense, in their passing game. There's that fumble that got to the sideline. But Sark was pretty pleased with everything except for the fourth quarter. But you get 4 in a row after what happened in Florida, you got to be pretty pleased with this stretch.
Absolutely. For this offense, I think I was very, very impressed with the play of not only the wide receiving core, but also with the play of Arch Manning specifically. Came back from a concussion. I don't know how much he practiced, and maybe you can lend some insight on that. But what did you make of Arch Manning in the performance at home, and maybe the confidence that gives him as they move forward?
Looks like a different quarterback, guys. When you think about some of the early season games and some of the misfires, to me, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I mean, every quarterback's going to miss, but early on, there was some pretty drastic misses, and Sark even said today about that accuracy component. He thinks he's more confident. The offensive line played well, so he's a little cleaner, but he took some hits. He took a big hit on a touchdown to Evan Mosley that, maybe he doesn't make that throw a few weeks ago. And I hate to be too simplistic, but it is a young quarterback as far as game experience, kind of growing up and taking some lumps, and now we're seeing a different quarterback, and that has helped this offense. Now, I think Sark has tailored some of it. They've opened the game 2 straight weeks with that quick hitch to Ryan Wingo. Nearly took it to the house against Mississippi State. Did take it to the house against Vanderbilt. That's got to give you some confidence, right? Mm-hmm. And I think, to me, the biggest thing, guys, is third down efficiency. I mean, that's where you make your money, so to speak. If you can keep the chains moving, keep the other team off the field. He did that against Mississippi State, and he did that against Vanderbilt on that 90-yard drive. He had a pretty big third down conversions through the air. So I just think he's kind of grown up, and we put so much on him over the summer, and then Ohio State was what it was, and then he just wasn't great against UTEP, and now we're starting to see, because we talked about even the Florida game, he hung in there. He was just taking a beating.
Right.
Lately, he's not quite taking that same beating.
Roger, I feel like the last 2 games have been night and day difference. Where 2 games ago against Mississippi State, it felt like the defense was just getting gashed for 3 quarters, and then they finally turned it up in the last quarter. And then this one against Vanderbilt, they were locking down Diego Pavia and the Commodores up until the 4th quarter, where, as you mentioned, it might have looked like they were a little bit gassed, and you wouldn't have been surprised if Vanderbilt was able to go on and win the game. What did you make of the defense, and what are some of the struggles that you're seeing so far?
Well, I mean, quite honestly, one thing is health. They were devastated in the secondary. Michael Taft didn't play. Jelani McDonald went out. He's in protocol. They lost their top corners for a lot of the game, and in and out, trying to mix and match. Bobby's really good. Texas was really good against him for 3 quarters, and I counted up 227 yards passing he had in that 4th quarter. 1 play drive to Stowers, and that was the one that really frustrated Sark, because the worst thing that can happen is quick. I mean, you can make them drive, and that's what they're known for, but it was just a busted coverage. He gets over the top, and all of a sudden they put 14 on the board. Now it's a 10-point ball game. Mm-hmm. And then they convert a 4th and 19 from their own 1-yard line. and ended up driving the length of the field to get it to that 3-point game. But Pavia is such a magician back there. Texas sacked him 6 times, and he'd only been sacked 7 the entire season leading up to it. So Colin Simmons, Ethan Burke are having monster stretches right now. But, there was too much of the game left, and Pavia made them pay. But, they were up 34-10. It was a little like last year against Vanderbilt. It ended on an onside kick, just like it did on Saturday. But, they had the dynamic against their name, and I stand by. If it was 9 of a blue blood, it might even look more impressive to people than Vanderbilt. But that was a really good Vanderbilt team that Texas handled pretty well for 3 quarters, and then didn't handle as well in the fourth, but had enough cushion.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, a W is a W for the Longhorns. We got a chance to hear from head coach Steve Sarkisian after the win over the Commodores.
Biggest thing about getting that win is to be 4-1 in the SEC and to put ourselves in position to compete for a conference championship here with 3 weeks to go. I think is huge for us. We have got to dig deep into who we are right now. We've got to dig into the things that are causing us issues in all 3 phases right now. We got to look at how people are attacking us in all 3 phases right now, and we got to be forward thinkers, right? And what are people going to do when they look at our tape, and how are they going to try to attack us? And we got to make sure that we've got enough, tools in our toolbox to combat that stuff. And so, as much as it is, I want to get a head start on Georgia. We got to look at ourselves first.
So there is head coach Steve Sarkisian. It's a really interesting scheduling spot right now because I think the bye week comes at a really good time this week before a nice stretch run there towards the end. Probably the hardest to schedule of any team outside of the Arkansas game. But what do you make of what they will do this upcoming week now that you do have the bye with 2 of the 3 games against right now teams that are in the top 5?
Yeah, a lot different than the bye between Sam Houston and the Big 12, or the SEC opener rather. That was about development. That was getting work in and all this. This is about, as you said, I think they got to get healthy. They'll do some work, but the young guys, the guys that maybe are on the verge of deciding to redshirt, or special teams guys primarily will get a lot of reps, and then they'll get into Georgia. You kind of into the part of the season now where it's the reps to get ready for a ball game, and knowing exactly what you want to do, and in Sark's mind, knowing exactly what he wants to do against Georgia, then, at this point, developing is a little more difficult this late in the season. But just to get it fresh, get the work you need in against the Georgia team that, last year that was their Achilles. They came in here, beat them with Gunnar Stockton coming into the second half. Texas had the lead, and they get Carson Beck out of the game and still couldn't hang on. So might be a little bit of a bulldog in the Longhorns' heads, too, that they have to get over.
Absolutely. I want to turn the page to a different sport, but there are some similarities here because the football team opened the gates with the Ohio State Buckeyes in the biggest game of the year. The men's basketball team will open the season up against perennial power Duke in a big game in the Dick Vitale Invitational. From what you've seen and what you've heard so far from this Texas basketball team, what do you expect this year, and what do you think about that opener against John Shire and the Blue Devils?
Yeah, Sean Miller said probably wake up on Tuesday morning going, what in the world are we doing playing Duke in Charlotte over the season? He inherited the schedule, obviously, when he took over for Rodney Terry, so this wasn't his call. But certainly if the Dickie B Invitational calls, you're going to go ahead and answer that call. They've got a lot of new guys, and basically everyone's new other than 2 Xavier guys to Sean Miller's system. So it's not like the guys that are veterans. They're veterans to wearing the burnt orange, but they're not veterans to playing in this system of Sean Miller. So he said this is going to look a lot different down the road than it's going to look right off the bat. So, it's going to be rough to open against Duke no matter when it is and where it is. But, it'll be interesting to see. Kendall Weaver's a guy that I'll start with, guys, because he is a fascinating college basketball player because he's kind of like not many you have ever seen with the energy he provides, what he does. He's a basketball player too, but he's a phenomenal athlete, and he gives his body up, and he's just a unique player that I think every coach would like to have one of. Problem is he puts his body on the line every other trip down the floor, so sometimes he has a hard time staying healthy. But we'll see how they can fare and kind of get an idea of what rotation. He's got a couple of big guys missed some of camp because of injuries. They should be ready tomorrow night against Duke. Jordan Pope is another guy coming back. He can score in bunches at times, but they're going to need him to be more consistent. Tremont Mark, the transfer at Houston, Arkansas, came on at the end last year. You guys saw him at the SEC tournament. Kind of made him a point forward. It was a different looking team. And then all the new faces, Dalen Swain came with Sean Miller. He's a guy I know they're going to count on. But I'm as interested as you guys are to see what this team looks like. They didn't play any public exhibitions or scrimmages or anything like that. So we're all going to be seeing them for the first time Tuesday night.
Roger, I guess that kind of answers my question, because I was going to ask, what is a realistic projection for this team? Because, I mean, as we all saw, the SEC sent an unprecedented amount of teams to the NCAA tournament, and obviously Sean Miller made the tournament with Xavier. So I guess what can we expect? What is a realistic projection for this team this year?
Well, they were picked 9th, so 9th gets them in probably, right?
Yeah.
So I would say if they can get 9, 10, 11 conference wins, I could be way off. Again, I'm blind going into this as far as how you project all these transfers coming in with the new head coach. It's one thing if, a new head coach comes in, he's got a core of 6 or 7 guys, and then he brings in 3 or 4 of his own, but it's kind of the opposite. He's got a core of 3 or 4, and he's bringing in 8 or 9. So I would say anything above 500 in the SEC is pretty good, and that's going to get you a berth in the tournament.
Absolutely. So it's a nice reprieve there. I don't know if they did this on purpose, where the football team is off for a week and then the basketball team opens the season against the Duke Blue Devils. But it's a great scheduling spot if you're a fan of Texas athletics. Roger, thank you so much for joining us here on Southeast Sports Plus.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Roger Wallace covering all things Texas Longhorns. And he mentions it. Hey, no exhibition game. You know the players that are back, but no exhibition game, no preseason matchup. So you don't really know what to expect of this team as they go to Cameron Indoor.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know what the spread is. I think the last time I saw it was like 8.5, 7.5. So I mean, they're giving them some respect here heading into this game. Brand new team, Sean Miller coming over, first year coming over from Xavier. If I'm not wrong, I think Xavier played Texas in the first 4 last year. So I mean, Sean Miller goes and beats Texas, and then goes and becomes their next head coach. So I think if they're able to keep it single digits, even if they do lose, I feel like you got to have some hope for this year if you are Texas.
No question about it. And I think that Texas is always going to be athletic, and can they put it all together? And like Roger said, Texas is preseason ranked 9th in the SEC. If it's anything like last year, that'll get you into the big dance, and we'll see how it all shakes out. So about middle of the pack there in the SEC. They'll open the season up against the Duke Blue Devils. That is a Dick Vitale Invitational. That's great for a lot of different reasons. 7:45 Central Time is the tip-off time for the Longhorns and the Blue Devils. Keep it right here. We will talk the Georgia Bulldogs coming up next after that big win over the Gators. Welcome back to Southeast Sports Plus. We close out hour number 1 with one of our favorite games here. We have these little data points throughout the course of the regular season. And so with each data point, we ask ourselves a question, contender or pretender. Now, the college football playoff poll, those rankings come out tonight. So
yes,
they
first one.
Right. So they'll tell us who the real contenders are, essentially by the actual formation of the bracket. But we will play this game as it relates to the teams that we cover and the teams that we've kept an eye on all season long, and also projecting forward with their futures. Because it's not just a contender pretender right now. It's, do you see this team being a contender in the next month or so?
Right, and this team that we're going to talk about here today, you mentioned it in the break to me. I feel like they've made a complete 180 in regards to where we were talking about them just a month ago.
Yep.
And without further ado, why don't we talk about the Texas Longhorns today?
Texas Longhorns. You know what? Let's have you go first this time.
Okay.
Contender or pretender?
Here is my thing about this team. It feels like Arch has finally started to get it.
100%. Yep.
And you can't really say, oh, the concussion knocked him into shape and stuff like that, because he still had a really good game before he left the Mississippi State game.
Right.
It feels like he's got that swag back.
Yeah.
I remember watching the runouts, or ESPN had a camera on him right before they were about to run out, and he just turns around and he just yells into the camera. I'm like, oh yeah, he's back.
Yeah.
He's got that swag back, and he definitely showed it. Yeah, the offense was simplified a little bit in the Vanderbilt game. I know Wingo it was just screen pass, and Wingo just did the rest. But still, I mean, it takes some. I think the big thing early in the season was the incompletions and just how they looked.
Right.
With that being said, I still think Texas is a pretender.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Because
bit of a heel turn there.
Because of this.
Yeah,
you won these close games. Yeah, you're winning the games.
Right.
But then you've got to face Georgia.
That's the thing. Yeah.
And then you've got to face Texas A&M.
Yep.
And if I think I literally just said this earlier in the show. I think if they are they can be a 3-loss team and make it. The thing is, if they do lose another game, which I think they will, they need help from Tennessee beating Vanderbilt, because I still think a 2-loss Vanderbilt team makes it in over a 3-loss Texas team, even though Texas beat them.
Right.
Because then you're going to have like the Florida State all over again. Rah, rah, rah. You
Correct.
can't do this.
Yeah.
But if they're both at 3 losses, Texas makes it over any Big Ten team and any ACC team.
And they would be, in your opinion, the best 3-loss SEC team.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the best 3-loss SEC team.
You look at that schedule, unless
Oklahoma loses to Alabama, and so let's say Oklahoma now has 3 losses, but Texas beat them on the field.
Oklahoma would be the best 3-loss team if Texas were to lose to A&M and Georgia.
Right.
Which it could happen.
Yeah, that could happen. I'm going to go the opposite, but I really liked a lot of your reasoning, because I'm going to go contender.
Okay.
Because I do think that there is part of something with Arch that has flipped, and I don't know what that is. You mentioned it might just be a confidence, a swag, a moxie. Something in his game has switched, and I feel like he's now in a good headspace to where I believe in him. I trust him to go play Georgia in Athens.
But here's my question to you.
Yeah.
Can you trust this defense, though? That's the thing.
That's the problem, and that's been the issue, which coming into the season, it's been so seesaw, because coming into the year, after the first 3 games of the season, it looked like the offense was going to struggle and the defense was going to play lights out. And it now has seemingly has flipped, where last week they gave up 31 points to Vanderbilt. The week before that, they gave up 38 points to Mississippi State. It looks like the defense can't be trusted. To me, it's not as bad as Tennessee's defense, even though they are giving up a lot of points. I just see them being able to get past Georgia. The Texas A&M game will be interesting, but if you're sitting there with 3 losses and 2 of them are in conference and 1 is out of conference, so say you're sitting there with the three overall losses, that might be able to sneak you in from a brand perspective. And I think from a brand perspective, Texas will kind of have the upper claw. But if on their resume is that little stretch run and a win over Georgia in Athens, they're able to get that win, I think even a 3-loss team, they would have the best resume of those 3-loss teams.
Yeah, I think so too. It's just, again, I think it comes down to they need help from Tennessee beating Vanderbilt, because Vanderbilt will make it in over Texas if they are a 2-loss team.
Right.
I still think I'm not going to change my opinion on the SEC is getting 5 teams in no matter what. This past weekend only proved that with Georgia Tech and Miami losing. So there's probably only going to be 1 or maybe 2, maybe Virginia and Louisville in from the ACC and maybe 2 from the Big 12.
Big 12, yeah.
But, I mean, you look at the Big 10, you could make the obviously Ohio State's in, Indiana's in, Oregon's in. But who is that 4th? I don't think that Michigan's better than Texas. I mean, there's just no way. I don't see it happening. So they're going to need to get some help. But it is interesting, though, because I mentioned this to Roger yesterday. The Mississippi State game, defense was getting gashed for 3 quarters, and then they turned it up the last quarter.
Yep.
And then you flip it over to this game against Vanderbilt, locking down Diego Pavia. And it almost felt like you could make the argument maybe it was garbage time.
Right. They took their foot off the gas or all that. Yeah.
Still, if you want to be an elite defense, you cannot just give up 200 yards and 3 touchdowns in 1 quarter.
Right.
I mean, you were this close to losing the game, I think Roger said.
Correct. Yes. And exactly. And we've talked about the injuries, too. You mentioned it on the show a couple times. Michael Taft still not in there. He's an All-American, former walk-on, but he's an All-American.
Oh, yeah.
So from a leadership standpoint, because he was at SEC Media Days, from a leadership standpoint, you miss him in the huddle. You just miss his energy and his leadership. And then, of course, his play there as well. And Anthony Hill Jr. And I feel like this is a defense that has a lot of star players. They just, for some reason or another, over the last month or so, haven't really been able to put it together. But the question goes in the backside: has Sark and the offense, have they found the spark to make you get rid of that? It's where it's like the Dodgers bullpen. Yeah. If they're a really bad bullpen, can you just hit enough home runs where it doesn't matter? Well, obviously we'll find out.
See.
We'll find out with Texas coming up very shortly. Coming up next here on Southeast Sports Plus, it is hour number 2. Break down Bama and LSU coming up next.
Outbound transmission?
Affirmative.
Crew ready?
Check.
Signal lock?
Check.
Downstream stations online?
Linked and locked.
Let's light this candle.
Flame on.
In 3, 2, roll show open.
In our neck of the woods, sports is tradition. Sports is passion. Sports is family. Sports is fun. Welcome to our house. This is Southeast Sports Plus Live with Simone Eli and Gerhard Mathangani.
Notre Dame's first football season was back in 1887. Auburn's first football season was 5 years later in 1892. Somehow, some way, these programs have never met on the football field. Well, that will change. Breaking news out today, Auburn and Notre Dame have scheduled a home-and-home matchup 26 and 27. You see there in 2026, it'll be in South Bend. And on the Plains in 2027. This is a really interesting scheduling standpoint. As we know, the College Football Playoff Committee have tweaked their rules a little bit as far as the way that they will be able to seed the teams moving forward in future college football playoff tournaments, and also the SEC moving to a 9-game schedule with one extra Power 4 team or Notre Dame on the schedule. Auburn will play Notre Dame coming up in the future. Welcome to Southeast Sports Plus. Gerhard Mathangani, Patrick Walsh with you. Patrick, this news landed just moments ago, and we were like, first it was kind of jarring because what we have seen here recently are teams break away from these games, and now Auburn is scheduling one.
Yeah, I am a little bit intrigued by this matchup. I almost feel like Notre Dame has everything to lose by playing Auburn. That's no offense to Auburn, but who knows what the Tigers are going to look like next year. They got to find a new coach. Who knows who's going to be the next head coach after? Because it feels like they still have to go through the pecking order of the SEC and finding their coach and stuff like that. But definitely interesting. Mainly the fact that they've never played each other.
Yeah.
I mean, that was shocking to me. When I saw the push notification came through, I was like, really? I mean, these are two old programs.
Right.
And you just never found a way to just run into each other in like a bowl game or something.
That was my thing. Like no bowl game, no out of conference game at all. Like none of that.
I mean, it really is just shocking. But yeah, breaking news literally came out 20 minutes ago. I'm pretty sure it was just about 20 minutes ago that Auburn and Notre Dame schedule a home-and-home series, 2026, be in South Bend. That'll be a good test for whoever is the next head coach of the Auburn Tigers, and they'll get their first test right there and then in 2027 on the Plains. So, Gerhard, what do you think about this matchup? Do you agree with basically like what I'm saying is like Notre Dame has everything to lose, Auburn has everything to win?
Right. No, 100%. Auburn has everything to win in this, and Notre Dame has everything to lose. I do think that when that game is in Auburn, it will draw a very, very good crowd. So I think if you're Auburn, there's another big, huge factor with this. But also, and Pete Thamel reported this, I want to give him credit.
Yes.
He said it talks about this series also factored into Auburn's decision to move that Baylor game to a neutral site. So remember,
I was wondering about that.
Yes, so that the Auburn-Baylor game, I think a lot of people were scratching their heads, us included, or myself included at least, of why move that game to Atlanta. I saw a little bit of the rationale. Some of it was also because of NIL money that was potentially going to be able to be available for the student athletes for Auburn into that matchup. Well, if you know down the pipe that you're going to play Notre Dame in a home game, in a true home game, that does give you leverage for a Baylor game where you can now move it. So now, to me, clarify, rationalize the decision to move the Baylor game to Atlanta, because you can probably more than recoup what you would get for that game day experience there with Notre Dame in. So obviously the news, it would make more sense if it was flipped, if we learned about the Auburn-Notre Dame series first and then we learned about the news to move the Baylor game. But it does kind of crystallize it a little bit for me.
And honestly, we're going to get into the college football playoff rankings here in just a minute, but it just feels like Notre Dame, if they lose this game, it doesn't really help. That's not really a resume booster, whereas, if they did go on to beat Texas A&M again this year, that could have been a huge resume booster.
Absolutely.
Put them in the college football playoff, no question.
Right.
But it's definitely interesting for me. I'm going to stick with it. This is a big win for Auburn and a major loss for Notre Dame, I feel like. It's just because what happens if you do lose these games? I mean, and then down the stretch, who knows what Auburn's going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just I'm sorry, Curt Cignetti. Like, Curt Cignetti made expectations unrealistic where someone's just going to come in and just fix the program overnight. You have to expect there to be at least 1 to 2 years of transition for a new coach, get his guys in, his recruits, stuff like that, be able to settle himself in on the Plains. So you can't really expect Auburn to be in the college football playoff conversations next year. So it almost makes you wonder if Notre Dame were to lose these games. That's a major tank.
It's huge. Yeah, it is huge. And I think the reason for Notre Dame to be able to put Auburn on the schedule is to basically boast that we have another SEC opponent on our schedule. We have a home-and-home connection. And who knows, this game might end up like the Texas A&M Notre Dame game earlier this year, where it's a new coach or a relatively new coach. I know Elko's going into his second season. It's a relatively new coach at Auburn at the time. It will be something similar. And then you have a situation to me where you can say that you could pump your chest out, say, if this is Notre Dame talking now, pump your chest out, say, hey, we played at SEC school, and then just kind of hope that Auburn, goes, 10 wins, 8 wins, 9 wins, 10 wins. You can bolster that on your record as well. So to me, I find this one really, really interesting, and it should be a fan favorite at the very least, because Notre Dame certainly does draw a crowd. Speaking of Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish are in the top 10 of the latest college football playoff committee rankings. We got the first taste of it yesterday. It mirrors a lot of what we've seen from the AP poll, and the AP poll has not moved very much over the last month or so. And the college football playoff poll, we thought there might be some tweaks. For the most part, in the top 5, it remains the same.
Yeah, and the SEC did get 6 teams in the top 12, but that we have to clarify, that doesn't mean that they have 6 teams in the playoff right now.
Right.
It's just in the top 12 of the rankings, because you have to account for the ACC champion, which I believe is outside of the top 12. I don't believe their projected ACC champion is in there, and then obviously the group of 5. So let's roll right into the top 25 rankings. We'll start from 25 on down. Tennessee, I mean, they're out of it at this point. But at number 24, I feel like Pittsburgh and Washington are the 2 teams, in my opinion. Well, actually, Pittsburgh, Washington, and Michigan are 3 teams that honestly could sneakily move their way up and make the playoff. We were talking about it yesterday. Pittsburgh still got Notre Dame.
That's right.
They still have Miami, and they still have Georgia Tech on their schedule. If they win all 3, I feel like you got to make the argument.
You got to put them in. You're exactly right. And Michigan, they still have Northwestern, Maryland, and Ohio State. So I think you're spot on. I think that if Michigan runs the table and if Pitt runs the table, their resume will be good enough to be able to get themselves in. And you were right about the ACC, the projected ACC champions, Virginia. Yeah. They're in the top 15 there as well. But no, you're right. There are a few teams, like, for example, you said it on the onset, Tennessee is stuck. They're out. I mean, 25 might be the best ranking they get, barring some chaos above them, but they're out of the playoff. But the other teams that we just mentioned right there, outside of Missouri, because I think they're out as well.
I think so too.
They all do have basically an engine tank behind them that they can rock it up a little bit.
Yeah, and I seriously think we'll get into. We were just talking about Notre Dame. Pittsburgh can play spoiler for Notre Dame then jumpstart their own hopes to the college football playoff. But we'll move right along here. Iowa, who the Hawkeyes were not ranked in the AP poll.
That's right.
They're 20th. Here in the College Football Committee ranking.
Yeah, this was another one where I know the people that were on the set there when the polls were released, and a lot of college football fans in general, were waiting to see the differences and the similarities between the first committee rankings poll and the AP poll. Because the AP poll, keep in mind, it starts in the preseason, and then materializes throughout the year. So we were wondering how much differences there will be. This was probably the biggest difference, that Iowa is a top 20 football team and essentially number 26 in the AP poll, because they're not ranked, but just sitting right outside of it, giving the Hawkeyes a lot of credit. And the Hawkeyes obviously still have some big games left on their schedule there as well. So I was actually, really surprised by that. USC there as well. How about the Miami Hurricanes? A couple of losses.
They're gone. In my opinion, I think 18 is generous.
Oh, me too.
18 is very generous.
Me too. Considering their 2 losses, I know they're sandwiched in there with the teams with a bunch of 2 losses, but they're right there in that mix. And one of the biggest surprises to me was Georgia Tech. How far they have fallen, considering they're a 1-loss team.
Yeah, I just think the NC State loss. At this point, you got to win the ACC to make it in if you're Georgia Tech.
Right.
I mean, you had it right in front of you, but then you lose to NC State. And I know NC State does have a win over Louisville this year already.
Right.
But the thing is, you just cannot lose. I think NC State's 5-3 or 3-5.
Yes,
I can't remember.
they're 3-5 right now. They're 1 win in the conference is Georgia Tech.
You cannot justify that. Sorry, the Louisville loss came to Virginia.
Correct.
You can't justify making the college football playoff if you're going to lose to 3-5 NC State when there's just so many other teams in the mix.
Oh, sorry, correction. North Carolina's 3-5. They are NC State is now 5-4.
Gotcha.
That was their 5th win on Saturday. That was their 5th win and 2nd win there in the ACC. But still, you can't have that on your resume. And the committee punished them accordingly. There you see the other teams that are in the upper echelon of the ACC in the top 15, Louisville and the projected ACC winner, Virginia, is 14. So that lets you know what the committee thinks of the ACC. One loss, Georgia Tech, outside of the top 15. Your projected champion, Virginia, at number 14. Louisville there at number 15. So not a lot of love there for the ACC, or, in my opinion, accurately punishing those football teams. Meanwhile, Utah coming in at number 13, Oklahoma 12. And you and I, we were watching this, and as more ACC teams crept up there, we were like, is Texas going to be a top 12 football team? And yet they are.
Yeah, I feel like the committee is giving them credit for playing in the SEC. Yeah, the Florida loss was bad, but honestly, if you look at some of the other teams up there, you couldn't put Oklahoma over them because they beat Oklahoma.
Right.
They beat Oklahoma. Utah, you play in the Big 12. I'm sorry, Big 12 people. Your conference isn't great. And then Louisville and Virginia. You're only going to get one out of the ACC because, honestly, yeah, Florida is, third to last in the SEC this year.
Right.
I don't remember who's third to last in the ACC, but you can't tell me.
Right.
I'm just going to say Boston College. You cannot tell me Florida is losing to Boston College. I'm sorry.
Right. You would have no hope. No shot. No shot at even making a run there. Inside the top 10 now we go. Wow. It is Notre Dame, the team that we just talked about, going to play Auburn in a future home-and-home series. The big shocker, I think, for a lot of people was Oregon.
Yeah.
They're at number 9.
I don't know about this one. I mean, I can see it because if you do look at the resume, their best win is at Penn State, who was number 3 at the time. Obviously, we've seen how that has panned out.
Yep.
It went into overtime. It was the whiteout game, but their worst loss, their only loss, was at home to Indiana, 30-20. The remaining schedule to me is a little bit interesting because I think if they were to win out, they probably move up to no higher than 7th, in my opinion.
Okay, yeah. So they don't jump. So of all the one-loss teams that are out there, you don't think they don't jump Alabama, they don't jump Georgia, and they don't jump Ole Miss and Texas Tech.
The only
considering who.
I think we were talking about it. The BYU Texas Tech game is one of the most important games of the whole season.
No question. Yeah, because Texas Tech will have 2 losses if they were to lose.
They'll jump the loser. And that's why I think maybe 8th.
Right. So they'll jump the loser even if it's BYU and that's their first
Whoever
loss.
wins that Big 12 game is winning out.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And then Ole Miss there, I feel like the top 6 is just going to stay the same. Ole Miss, Georgia, Alabama, Texas A&M, Indiana, and Ohio State.
That is interesting. Let's go back to Oregon for just a second here because that one to me is really interesting as they move forward because this Oregon team to me, there's not a game that stands out in your mind.
No.
Literally only the game that does is the one they lost.
Yeah.
Because they haven't played anybody really.
Yeah, and the biggest question coming into that game was, well, Indiana can't beat anybody. They could never beat anybody under Curt Cignetti. And then Curt Cignetti was like, here, go ahead and Google me. Now I actually can beat somebody. And now they just can't stop blowing out teams. But it's just, I really don't see Oregon moving up past 8. I just really don't.
So the 8th seed, let's just say that for convenience sake, let's say they get the 8th seed. The 8th seed will have to go on the road. Is that the final home?
That's the final. They play the 9th seed.
Yeah, the final home playoff spot. So in a perfect world, they'll still get a home playoff game.
Right.
They can still play for a home playoff game if that is their goal. To obviously
they'll play the loser of the Big 12, the first Big 12 championship this weekend.
Right. So basically, let's just say,
which I believe is going to be Texas Tech.
Yeah, so let's say Texas Tech wins that game, hands BYU their first loss of the season. So you're saying that...
Oh, no, I'm saying Texas Tech's going to lose to BYU.
Oh, okay, so Texas Tech will lose to BYU. Yeah. All right, so
and
BYU
they'll host Texas Tech.
Okay.
That's just my take on it.
I got you. Pretty cool. Pretty cool there. And we got a chance to hear from Kevin Elko talking about his time peaking as the Aggies right now in the top 3.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. And somebody asked me that last week too, like in terms of the peaking part, like it's such a hard thing to gauge. You certainly don't go into the season when you look at, okay, we got to go to South Bend in week 3. We're going to identify week 9 as, when we want to peak. I think you're trying to push this growth mindset in your program that, we've got to come out of the blocks ready to go. No team is their best version in the start of the season. You want to really be a team that grows every single week and really understand that the best teams and the teams that are standing at the end get significantly better as the year goes on. And then hopefully get into this month of November where, everything's at stake and you understand the urgency of that better maybe than we did last year, and you continue to see that growth through the month of November, which then I think leads to people talking about, it looks like they're peaking, but I think it really kind of just step ladders all the way through the season if you do it the right way.
Good stuff there. Continuing here on Southeast Sports Plus, we have a great guest lineup, including our first guest today. It is Mariah Ross out of Spartanburg, South Carolina. Stay with us. You'll hear from her next. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, hour number 2 rolls along. We head over to Arkansas, check in with Courtney Mims. Got a great chance to talk to her there in the break about her father and basketball. We'll talk some hoops in just a little bit, but first let's talk football because we've been waiting for a little while for this Arkansas team to finally get a win. Auburn came to town. It's like, will they do it? Mississippi State came to town. They're like, can we do it? Okay, so I'll promise you this. We will keep the football talk very brief. We'll go more basketball. But on football, what do you make of just the way this year is? And I know we have flirted with the conversation of Bobby Petrino being able to keep this job, but has he almost coached himself out of the job over the last few weeks?
Yeah, I've told you guys before because I went on the show, what was it, last week before this game, and you guys said, do you think they'll get their first SEC win? And I went,
Yeah.
And I think you guys remember that. And I was correct for a reason, right? It's sad to be right about that, but there you go. But yeah, I said before after the Auburn game, I said after the Auburn game, it's done. Bobby Petrino not going to get the job. And so there were still some people who went, really? Are you sure? Right. And I said, yes, I'm absolutely sure. After this Mississippi State loss, unfortunately, for maybe any Bobby Petrino supporters out there or anybody who really wanted him to get the job, it's just not going to happen. I've been told by sources that he kind of knows that now, and it's kind of an obvious thing that, hey, it's not going to go to you. Sorry, but hey, we appreciate you and what you've been doing. There's only, a few games left, 3 after this bye week. And so, yeah, we're going to have you coach out the rest of the season. And, we're going to look in a different direction. And so that's what we've been told again. And I think the fan base has really come to terms with that as well. Any of the people that really wanted him to get the job kind of go, yeah, maybe we just need a fresh face, some new energy, something different, just to get this fan base energized. Because right now, I'll tell you guys, it's all basketball here in the state of Arkansas.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think there's anybody. Now, I'll say this, not entirely all basketball, because you still have College Game Day that might come to Arkadelphia next week for the Battle of the Ravine. So, hey.
That's right.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Absolutely. And you mentioned it. People have turned their attention to basketball. And I remember seeing a couple of weeks ago, it was like a dunk contest, and it felt like the student section was out there. They were, just like roaring, ready to go. And Coach Calipari there in year 2. Obviously, the Hawks get a big win there to start the season off against Southern. For those that don't keep up with this basketball team, the last time they saw them was in the big dance last year. What does Calipari have back in store this season, and what do you expect of them after that big win in their opener?
Oh, well, he has an even better team than he did last year. Yeah, they went to the Sweet 16 last year. That was great. We were happy after an 0-5 start in SEC play. I don't think anybody predicted this team to go to the Sweet 16 last year, but this team is better than last year's. And if you don't believe me, just look at the schedule, right? This team faces every single team that was in the Elite Eight last year at some part of their season, right? In the non-conference and the conference slate. So look, Calipari, he's not dumb. He's been doing this for a long time. He is a Hall of Fame basketball coach for a reason. He scheduled that schedule because he knows the talent he has. And you saw it on display a little bit against Southern. You saw on display in the 2 exhibition games against Cincinnati and Memphis. I said it last week on the show. This team is going to a Final Four. It takes a lot of luck to get there. If luck is on their side, they have the talent to do it. They return just a plethora of talent. Trevin Brazil was the leading scorer in that game against Southern. Yeah, they return him. They also get back DJ Wagner. They also get back Billy Richmond. And Carter Knox, he didn't even play in that game against Southern. He was dealing with a foot injury, and so he should be good for this Saturday against Michigan State. We feel like he'll be good for that game, but they obviously just wanted to keep him out of that opener just to make sure he was okay. And then you also have 2 freshmen who are just so good, guys. So good. Yeah. Malik Thomas and Darius Acuff. Darius Acuff had 20 points in the first half. Amazing. 14 of those 20 points in that first half, guys, came at the last 3 minutes of the first half. Wow. He just went off. He went off. And he just said, you know what? We're going to put away Southern. And he said, I'm going to do it right now. And then in the second half, you obviously had Malik Thomas. You see it right there, those stats there. But Malik Thomas, 21 points in that game. He can do it all, guys. I sat down with him, and he's not a freshman. I don't care what anybody says. He acts like he is playing in the NBA. That's his mindset, and I love it. Guys, this team, I can't say enough good things about him. I know I went on a rant there, but I'm so excited about this team.
Courtney, I feel like I go back to the Kentucky days, and it felt like early in the season, teams under Coach Cal would put up triple digits. But the one thing that would always kind of scare me about his teams is that they really wouldn't play defense well. And I know this was still a 30-point victory over Southern, but allowing 77 points does scare me a little bit. Was it just guys getting a little bit of time? I mean, I didn't watch the game, so maybe you could help me with that a little bit, because just thinking about it and going back to Jack Golke back in the tournament when Kentucky played Oakland, and he just rained threes down on them. The one thing about the Coach Cal teams that just make me a little bit queasy is just the fact that sometimes they don't play defense, and it comes back to haunt them.
Oh, absolutely. And you're totally right on that, because that is something that we've looked at with this team, and we've said, okay, that's something that needs to get better, especially Coach Cal did say it in the post-game press conference last night. You know the first thing that came out of his mouth? He said, yeah, we did a lot of things great, but we gave up 12 threes. We gave up 12 threes, people. We can't have that happen. Teams are going to take advantage of us if they can stay in the ball game by shooting threes. You're exactly right, Patrick. You hit the nail on the head, and I was going to say that in terms of talking about this team moving forward, because that is something that concerns a lot of us. Now, Arkansas is playing their game, though, and I like their offense so much right now. The talent they have there, the pace of play, they turn the game into a track meet, right, where nobody can keep up with them, because look at transition. right? Let's just break that down. The reason why they were able to get such a good lead over Southern and put them away was because of fast break points. 32 compared to Southern's 12. That's how they beat you. They want to turn it into a full court game. They have the athleticism. They have the talent to do that with the team that they have. You know, it goes, you know, in comparison, let's talk about Michigan State, who's their next opponent. Tom Izzo's a guy that likes to keep things in the half court, that has a lot of half court sets, right? And really likes to slow the game down and make it their pace of play. That'll be really interesting to see what happens when they face a team like that. I mean, let's be honest here. Michigan State against Colgate, we're talking about giving up threes, right? Michigan State against Colgate, that was why Colgate was able to stay in the game. Right. Because they also gave up, 11 threes?
Colgate's been one of the best three-point shooting teams in the country, though. For the last few years.
Okay. And listen, I'll give some love to Southern, too, who were last season, they were the regular season SWAC champs. Okay. Listen, hold on. Oh, whoa, Patrick.
Whoa, what did I do?
Whoa. I'll tell you this. Don't overlook Southern. Now they need to defend the three. Absolutely. There were some lax plays where I went, what are we doing? Don't give them open looks, because Southern took advantage of them, and you better believe everybody on that non-conference slate is going to take advantage of that. That is something that they are working on, is being more aggressive at, obviously, defending the three. That is something that they're going to do. You're right, Patrick. I don't have the crystal ball. I can't tell you if this team's going to magically fix that.
I tell you what, if you could, though, if you did have a crystal ball, you'd make yourself a few bucks.
I would. I really would, because I'd be able to tell you exactly what happened in every single sports season. But look, we'll say this. Michigan State didn't shoot the three very well. It hasn't shot the three very well. And in that game against Colgate, they didn't. So look, maybe you might be able to squeak out a win over Michigan State, because they are not a really three-point shooting team right now. They might get that together. We'll see. But you're exactly right. You can't give up 12 threes, especially to Southern. You can't do it. You just can't.
Yeah, absolutely. And John Calipari would try to do something that Courtney's dad has done that not a lot of people have done. That's beat Tom Izzo. Things. If you tell us things in the break, we're liable to say them on air. We won't tell any super personal stuff, but your dad beat Tom Izzo once before. So and very few people can say they've beaten the Hall of Famer. Now this team goes to East Lansing. Talk a little bit about the matchup going on the road, and if you trust this team to still produce at the same caliber, high level as they have so far last year and in the first game this year.
I think they do, because, like I said, I like Arkansas's offense a lot right now. I think Michigan State still needs to work some things out. Yes, Tom Izzo got some guys to return and some serious ballers on that squad. I'm not giving any hate to the Spartans here. They are a very, very talented team, and I like what we're seeing from them early on. But I like Arkansas's offense better, and I like that Arkansas has guys who can just score at all three levels. I talk about Malik Thomas. He's a guy that, you have two freshmen on your team, and Malik Thomas and Darius Acuff, that do not care if they miss a bucket. They do not care. They will literally they're like goldfish. They forget about it. They go back down the court. They take the same shot and they'll make it, right? And so that's really great to see. But when it comes to Michigan State and this matchup, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because I talked about they play two different styles of basketball, right? If Arkansas establishes the way they want to play, which, like I said, it's going to be turning it into a track meet. It's going to be trying to get fast break points. It's going to be trying to generate turnovers, right? To generate turnovers to make it into offense and those points for them. That's going to be how they play. They like to play that style in the full court. If it's not that, and you're seeing that because Arkansas scored 109 points in their season opener, right? On the other side of things, Michigan State, right? Only 80 points. That's because they like to slow the game down. Tom Izzo, very good at half court sets, very good at making their game in the half court, which is obviously slowing things down. And so you now have two differing styles of play going up against each other this Saturday. So which one wins out? Who establishes how the game is going to be played up front?
Right.
And here's another thing that I'm looking out for. Michigan State, Tom Izzo's teams, very physical, very aggressive. They just, it's like, man, you look at them, free throws, right? In their games, in their exhibition games, and even against Colgate, they're getting to the line, right? They're just physical. Now, making their free throws, that's another story, but they are physical, and there will be I think they'll try and get to the line and have I hope maybe not, because I like when the teams get to play.
Yeah.
It's boring when it's a lot of free throws, but that's besides the point. They're very physical. And what did Memphis do straight out of the gate in that exhibition game where they looked really good and Arkansas didn't? They established an aggressive style of play. They were incredibly physical. And it was like, whoa, Arkansas didn't know how to handle it. Yes, they settled down. They got into their style of play. And that's when they gassed Memphis, right?
Right.
Because they started up tempo. They started, let's get into our game. If Michigan State can cause Arkansas to not get into a rhythm and play up tempo, they're going to win this ball game. Okay? But Arkansas' style of play, if it's a close game, Michigan State will win, right? They're slowing the game down. It's going to be a close game, and they'll win on a last-minute bucket or something like that. This is Courtney's crystal ball. If Arkansas... You guys laugh at me, but I'm doing it. If Arkansas establishes their pace of play and gets it into a track meet, they're going to have an early lead, look good, and they'll probably win big. I'm not saying win big by 30 points. Right. Winning big against two ranked opponents is double digits, right? If you can win by 10 points, 12 points, that's winning big. That will be Arkansas's victory. That's what I'm predicting right now.
I love it.
That's what I'm saying is going to happen.
I love it, though. The reason why I laughed is because Courtney's Crystal Ball sounds like a perfect name for a sponsor segment thing right in the middle of the show. And when whatever topic we go to, we're going to
3:15 every Wednesday.
And I want you to dress up for it, put like a little fortune teller hoodie on, and go there with the crystal ball. I can see it. I can see it playing out already. And if it's betting style, then hey, people can win some money off of it. John Calipari, Tom Izzo, two active coaches with a national championship. Coach Cal talking about the Spartans.
I don't know how many times he and I have coached against each other, but it's a few. How many? And then, but I've never coached in that arena. And they tell me the arena's crazy. So it's going to be, what's that?
I've been there, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I have not been, so I'm kind of excited about that. I don't like coaching against friends. And I think Tom's the same way. Like, if we win, I'll be excited, and I'll see him, and I'll feel like crap. And he'll be the same way, you know. No, we're, playing it. He'll come here next year. It's a great home and home. He's a Hall of Famer, and he's a great friend. He and I get on the phone with our wives listening and just laugh for 45 minutes, and then we feel better crap we're dealing with. And so, terrific coach, terrific person, and I'm proud about calling him my friend.
That was really good stuff there, talking about Coach Izzo and just how much he means to him, and the fact that they have only played a handful of times there in that matchup. Before we let you go, we want to turn to the other side on the court. The women's basketball team obviously getting off to a really strong note. The SEC is going to be very tough, obviously, with South Carolina. Tennessee seems to be looking back as well. What's in store here for the Razorbacks on the female side?
Well, I'm very impressed so far. And this is just early on, right, guys?
Yeah,
and we've seen this team a little bit in practice, but this was the first time we got to see what the Kelsey Music era is going to look like. And I thought it was impressive to really see this team. They were down 17-2 in the first quarter. Wow. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be the same old story with the Arkansas women's basketball team. Things haven't changed. oh my goodness, this is not good. I mean, I almost cut the highlights from my show because I thought this was just going to be such a bad blowout against Louisiana Tech. And, you know, the Lady Techsters, that's a good team to start off your season with.
Right.
I get it. I get it. It's not starting off your season against a Michigan State or something like that, you know, but there's still good competition. And you had people going in and saying, wait a second, why did we schedule Louisiana Tech to start off our season with? I mean, Kelsey Music's really bold to do that, but I was impressed to see they came back from being down by 15 to go on and get that victory. And that just goes to show Kelsey Music was not blowing smoke when she said in her opening press conferences and what this team was going to do. You saw exactly what she preaches. She preaches faith, family, fearless. Those are the 3 pillars, right? Obviously, faith in what your team can do, faith outside of what your team can do, you know, as well. Just faith in life. Family, they're a family, of course. They got to stick together throughout the season. And fearless. And I felt like we saw those pillars in action. They stayed together as a group. They didn't break. They came back. They said, you know what? We're not down in this game. We're going to make sure we go out and win it. Family, they stuck together. Faith, they had faith in what they could do, and they were fearless from the second quarter on to watch that team come back. I know the SEC is tough, but you have to lean on that. If you're going to win it. They don't have the same talent as everybody else. They don't. I'll say that. They're not a South Carolina. They're not an LSU. They're just not. I mean, even Ole Miss and other teams, they're not the same talent caliber. But they could sneakily get some teams in the SEC if they play like they did last night. They're never out of a game. It's like, you know, you ask these girls and they're like, nope. We were going to win that game. And I thought that shows the culture shift. And it was so badly needed at the University of Arkansas with the women's basketball team. And so I think people are very excited to see what Kelsey Music can do with this squad moving forward.
Absolutely. I think that's perfectly put. Don't gauge this team so much on the wins and losses. It is a culture shift in the foundation they're building over there in Hogs Country. Courtney, you're awesome. Crystal ball. Courtney's crystal ball.
Courtney's crystal ball. We'll get it. We'll make it happen.
Can we do it?
We're gonna superimpose a crystal ball right in the middle there, and then you're just gonna, you know, like right there, and then boom, and light us on the future.
We're gonna take the mic and we're gonna make it into a crystal ball.
Yes.
And
exactly.
then Wednesdays at 3:15, I'm just gonna come on with you guys and give you my crystal ball for college basketball.
Yes,
it's gonna be
please
great.
Perfect. And by the time the crystal ball is actually, you know, in full form, we'll have our first head coaching news, hopefully so, coming from the Razorbacks. Who might be the next head coach? I'm just saying that's the one I'm looking forward to the most.
Don't try and make me crystal ball that one. It changes daily.
Well, we'll give you a few weeks.
It changes daily.
Hey, I figured that. I figured that. Courtney, you're awesome. Thank you for your time today here on Southeast Sports Plus.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate y'all.
Courtney Mims, always fun, entertaining, and a great insight there on this basketball team that could make noise there on the women's side. And Coach Calipari, a lot of excitement there for the men.
I think this is a matchup that we very well could see in the Sweet 16 come March. Huge matchup for both teams. Obviously, Michigan State looking to replace a lot of their players that they lost when they lost in the Elite Eight to Auburn last year, and then Arkansas trying to build off that momentum. A lot of people wrote them off. They said, Cal, you don't got it anymore, and then he just managed to, you know, rip off a Sweet 16 run. But the one thing I do worry is, can Cal get his guys to play defense?
Right.
Because that's the one thing that has kind of haunted him, especially come March.
Right. And this true test here in the non-conference will really expose that if they cannot, or reflect it if they can. Really interested to see what goes on in East Lansing, Michigan, and beyond with the Arkansas Razorbacks. Keep it right here on Southeast Sports Plus. We'll talk some NFL Thursday night football with some SEC members in action tonight. Keep it here. Back here on Southeast Sports Plus, great college basketball talk, great college football talk today as we get ready for another week in college athletics. Also, a great day in the NFL tonight. The Denver Broncos have been, I think, one of the more pleasant surprises, so to speak, so far this year. I know they built some momentum a year ago, but they're looking really good with Bo Nix, a former Auburn star quarterback, taking on the Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders. I always want to say L.A., then I want to say Oakland. They've been everywhere, it feels like. Mariah Ross, one of my favorite moments of today's show, when she was like, I knew better than to be a Raiders fan, so she quickly jumped off that
Can we just stop real quick and just talk about how we've had one amazing moment with every guest
we have.
today?
Yes,
Mariah about that. Chessa about the old governor and everything, and then Courtney going on about the crystal ball. We'll get that happening. I mean, just great show today. But, yeah, as you mentioned, on Thursday, going to be an interesting matchup to me because on paper, this matchup really doesn't mean much.
Right.
Broncos 7-2. They're pretty much running away with the West there. The Raiders, I mean, it's been a struggle. They've lost that guy right there in the picture, Brock Bowers, for most of the season. But he came back and had a pretty good game last week in his return against Jacksonville. It's just interesting because this Broncos team, I don't really know what to make of them just yet. We saw last year, Bo Nix, rookie year. Yeah, it was a great year, but you could tell once the playoffs rolled around, they just got beat by a much better Buffalo Bills team.
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of them yet this year.
I'm the same way. I think obviously defensively they're still dynamic, and they still have one of, if not the best player in football on defense in Patrick Surtain. The defense is outstanding, and I think it's just enough to be able to kind of hold the boat. What I really like about the Broncos is obviously their coach, and Sean Payton's been outstanding. And the receiving core for Bo Nix has been really dynamic as well. Yeah. They don't have a ton of these star names like the Eagles have. A.J. Brown, of course. Oh, yeah. And you have the former Bama star Devontae Smith. And Dallas Goedert. They have a bunch of weapons that you know from a name standpoint. The Broncos obviously have Cam Sutton that people know. But this is a Broncos wide receiver weapons core, to me, that can help hold the boat open, or hold the boat up for the offense for them to get on board. I think they'll have no problem tonight against the Raiders because I think the Raiders are basically starting from scratch here. But I'm right there with you with the Broncos because I don't see them in the same light, and people might think I'm crazy with this. I don't see the Broncos in the same light that I see the Kansas City Chiefs. Now the people will say, well, the Broncos right now have a 7-2 record. The Chiefs are 5-4.
Right.
But I still trust Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, and company to continue to do work. Not so sure about this Denver team.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the guys that I feel like has been having a resurgent year has been J.K. Dobbins. Right?
Yes.
He was just hampered by continuous injuries in Baltimore. It never felt like he truly got a chance because he was just on IR the whole time. It felt like he was in Baltimore. But another guy that's looking to come off a lost year was Evan Ingram. And I just remember him and his time in Jacksonville. And I was like, man, he's really blossomed into one of the better tight ends in the game. And you could make the argument that he was easily in the top 10, maybe even in the top 5 in the game at one point.
Right.
But last year he missed 7 games. And this year he goes to Denver trying to reinvigorate himself. Only has 1 touchdown this year, but I wonder if he starts becoming more of a weapon as this season goes on.
Yeah.
Because you talked about the wide receiver room. There's no names that really stick out to you.
Right.
And, I mean, injuries start to stack up here late in the season. We've seen it already. And unfortunately, there's just been a mass chaos when it comes to the injury front.
Right, exactly.
And I feel like he could be one guy that they could turn to.
For sure. And I was like just pulling up their season stat sheet for their guys. I called him Cam Sutton. I'm sorry. I meant to call him by his name. Cortland Sutton. But then also you have Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims. Those are your top 4. And Evan Ingram is right there at number 5 overall for the season. 215 yards and a touchdown so far this year. So he can be a big player for them moving forward. The former Ole Miss star there for the Denver Broncos going into this week's game. We got a chance to hear from Bo Nix and the former Auburn star. I think it's kind of like Jalen Mills. It's kind of not Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, yes. Where he started in the SEC. Most of his tenure is in the SEC. Right. Went to somewhere else to try to finish his career, but we still claim them in the SEC. Yeah, exactly.
I think, if we can find a way not to have to play the number one defense in the league, that might help. But, they're trying to keep us from scoring at the same time we're trying to score. So it's not easy, and we found ways at times. And the good thing is we've fooled guys like you to believing that's easy at some point in the game. So I think that's, we always want to score every drive. That's, point blank period. That's our goal. Sometimes we fall short of that goal, and we have to, rely on the next drive and go score the next drive. But, I think at times we execute better than others, and then we just got to find a way to execute all of them like they're the most important thing ever. And we're always really close, and so that's the good thing.
We mentioned Bo and his ties to the SEC. He's one of several guys for those Denver Broncos that are former stars out of the Southeastern Conference.
Yes, Bo Nix. I mean, you can claim him Auburn. You can also claim him Oregon. It's the same way with Jalen Hurts.
Right.
Both Oklahoma and Alabama can claim him. But another guy from Auburn, Jarrett Stidham, his backup, he might. You never know. I know we saw a few weeks ago Quinn Ewers got some action on Thursday Night Football. Yep. Tyler Beatty out of Mizzou, Adam Prentice, South Carolina, and then Marvin Mims, as you mentioned there, coming from Oklahoma. And then moving on here, Trent Sherfield Jr. out of Vanderbilt, Nate Adkins, Evan Ingram, who we just talked about, trying to reinvigorate himself there in the Mile High City, Savion Jones out of LSU, and then DJ Jones out of Ole Miss. And then keeping it right along here, Malcolm Roach out of Texas, Nick Benito, one of the stars on that Denver Broncos defense. Dre Greenlaw as well out of Arkansas. Quay Robinson, Alabama. Chris Abrams-Drain. And then rounding it out here from the Broncos, Jahdae Barron from Texas. Pat Surtain, I believe he was the Defensive Player of the Year last year.
That's right.
I mean, you don't really see that out of a corner in today's NFL. PJ Locke out of Texas. And then Jeremy Crawshaw out of Florida doing the punting duties. But let's move over to Vegas here.
Yeah.
It feels like it's just, when is the suffering going to end?
Yeah, this has been rough because the turn of Geno Smith, you think maybe you got something rolling. Tom Brady's a part owner of this football team. Pete Carroll, a champion head coach, is the head coach of the team, and you think that the tide is about to turn here. It just fully hasn't so far, and you see the talent there. They beat the Patriots to start the season off. I mean, you think, okay, this team has.
And you see where the Patriots have gone now.
Correct, yeah, and so I mean, you get the sense that they can get it done. They just haven't been able to fully take that jump to that next level, and I really don't know where you go from here. Do you burn it all down, or you try to get some draft picks and see if you can run it back with some more talent?
Well, I think, in my opinion, I think they should have traded away Max Crosby. I'm a little bit stunned that they did keep him through the deadline, because you could have easily gotten an overhaul for him. But I mean, you got to build around this guy right here, Brock Bowers.
Yep.
And yeah, it hasn't been a great year for him because of the injury side, but you saw what he was able to do last year. We got a chance to watch him during his career at Georgia. I mean, you knew right away that this guy was going to be going in the first round. 3 touchdowns in his return. I think if you're going to build any sort of momentum, I don't think Geno Smith's the answer. I'm sorry. I'm a West Virginia guy.
Right.
Geno went to West Virginia. I feel like he had a great run there in Seattle, reinvigorating his career again.
Yeah.
After the Jets. I feel like his time is up here in the NFL. Aiden O'Connell hasn't really been the answer. They tried to go to him last year, nearly beat the Chiefs in late in the season.
Right.
I think you just got to start fresh, got to get a new quarterback, just build from there.
Probably just tear it all down. I think he's not the same reclamation project that we've seen with some of these other quarterbacks in the league. And we saw Brock Bowers tear it up at the University of Georgia. We knew he would be a superstar kind of player, and he's one of several guys with ties to the Southeastern Conference for this Raiders team as well.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at this, I mean, I think last year I had him on fantasy.
No, I have him this year.
You have him this year?
I have him this year, yeah.
Oh, man. Who do I have? I think I have Ferguson and Tyler Warren. So, I mean, it's hard to – two guys that have just been able to carry that just fine.
Been able to dominate it. So, yeah, he has been good. But you mentioned coming back from injury and got a chance to hear from him about being able to get back into action on the field.
Yeah, I think, personally, mentally, it's harder not playing than playing just because you want to be out there so bad. And I mean, it sucks when you're not on the field helping the team. Maybe a little fresh legs, but I mean, I just kind of tried to treat it like any other week. And I mean, you can't have those thoughts going through your head like you have to do this, you have to do that. You just got to go out there and play.
And Brock Bowers, one of several former SEC players to come out of the league and into this franchise, joins Zamir White, former Georgia star, Deontay Thornton as well out of Tennessee. There is, of course, Bowers and Stone Forsythe out of Florida, and Adam Butler coming out of Vanderbilt. Tonka Hemingway, I should say, from South Carolina. Jolo Lalu out of Oklahoma. J.J. Pegues, former Miss star. Jamal Adams, who went over in a trade from Seattle,
Yes.
now with the Raiders over there at LSU. Devin White, also from LSU, as they call it, DBU over there for that football program. Eric Stokes from Georgia. Chris Smith II from the Georgia Bulldogs as well. And former Auburn kicker Daniel Carlson for the Auburn Tigers there. Lots of SEC talent on display here. Who do you like in the game?
I got to go with Denver here. I mean, just on paper, not a great matchup. I still think the better team comes out with a win. Who do you have?
I like Denver as well.
Yeah.
Denver scares me, though, because they get off to really slow starts. Now, their fourth quarter, when they beat the Giants, they scored 33 points there in that one quarter. They've been a good second-half team, but first halves have been a bit shaky here for this squad.
Yeah, and you ready to go into our favorite segment ever?
Let's do it.
Here we go. Best bets. I'll start us off here.
All right.
I got Brock Bowers anytime touchdown here at plus 170. I think Bowers going to be able to build off of last week. It's a huge boost for this team to get back into just a rhythm. I mean, the offense hasn't really had an identity this year, and with Bowers coming back, having that 3-touchdown game last game, I really like him in this one. Let's move over to the Denver side. Bo Nix, 225-plus pass yards. I feel like Bo Nix has really started to develop himself into being one of the premier quarterbacks in the league, easily in the top 15. You can make the argument maybe even in the top 10, but I really like what Sean Payton's doing over there with him. And then our guy, J.K. Dobbins, 60-plus rush yards. It's been a tough career for J.K. With injuries. We just talked about it. I like him, playing an impact in this game. We don't usually see high-scoring games on Thursday Night Football.
That's right, especially in division.
But I think with this one, it's just there's too much. The Raiders' defense is just too suspect. The Raiders team in general is just too suspect. And
Yeah, I can see a high-scoring game there as well for a lot of different reasons, and one of my best bets will kind of illuminate one of those things. I have Ashton Genty.
Ashton Genty.
Anytime touchdown.
Okay.
Plus 100.
Plus 100. Okay.
Plus 100 for anytime touchdown. Here's another one. I have Geno Smith over a half of an interception. You can get it at minus 175, which lets you know where that's minus one. It started there or plus 137. I like the minus 175 for over, and Cortland Sutton over 56 yards in tonight's game.
Yeah, I mean, my poor guy Geno. I feel so bad. It's just. It's like Unk hanging up at this point.
I know. That's tonight's action there in the NFL on Thursday night. Keep it right here on Southeast Sports Plus. We will close the show here on a hump day. Closing up shop here on the first day of the first show after the College Football Playoff Committee rankings were released. We started the show talking a little bit about what we saw from the committee rankings and vis-a-vis the AP poll there, but obviously we left some meat there on the bone to chew on here in our final stages of this show. You're adamant. You still think that there's a good chance history will be made with one conference being able to dominate this year?
History will be made. The SEC will get 5 teams into the college football playoff, and I have the path to that right here.
All right.
Texas, you have to win out, period. And that's why I left that period in there. You have to win out. There's no way, in my opinion, a 3-loss Texas team gets in just because of that Florida loss.
Right.
You beat Georgia. You beat Texas A&M. There is no doubt in my mind that you deserve to be in. I don't care if the ACC people are like, well, no, Texas is bad because they lost to a bad Florida team. No.
Right.
The ACC is getting 1 team in this year.
Yeah.
And that's just the facts. Now, if you're Oklahoma, you need to win out and hope that Texas loses to Georgia or Texas A&M.
Right.
Because honestly, Oklahoma will be the best 2-loss team in college football history, have 5 top 25 wins, and yeah, that Texas loss in the Red River rivalry sticks out a little bit, but still, you can forget about it. Vanderbilt, you're going to need a lot of help. You're going to need a lot of help, and honestly, it really is unfortunate because I really wanted Vanderbilt to make the college football playoff. It's just that loss against Texas, you just could not come out flat.
Right.
And I don't see – I mean, you could win out, and Texas and Oklahoma both lose, but I almost think that I might even need to add that Notre Dame needs to lose to Pitt.
Yeah. And Notre Dame's always going to throw a little interesting wrinkle in this whole thing. Before we close out, we'll close out on an apology note.
Apology
after the Ryder Cup. What happened here?
Yeah, so as I'm sure we're all aware at this point, back in the Ryder Cup in September up in New York, this guy on your screen here got heckled a little bit by the fans. You know, the fans trying to give that American home turf advantage, and honestly, at some points. Probably went a little bit too far, but the PGA of America's Derek Sprague issued an apology to Rory McIlroy. He wrote an apology letter that Rory said he wrote him an email, and Rory said it was a lovely email.
Yeah,
basically saying, hey, like this isn't cool. The fans should not have done this. And honestly, we got to the point where some people were like, man, we shouldn't even have the Ryder Cup at all.
Which wow!
What are we doing?
No, that is ridiculous.
If we want to grow the game, look, I love that golf is growing right now.
Right.
The way to kill the game is to kill the Ryder Cup.
Yep.
Like there's just team events in golf are so good for the sport, and that's why I feel like LIV at first was like a breath of fresh air, and now we've seen LIV kind of taper off a little bit. Now they just recently announced that they're going to switch from a 3-day event to a 4-day event to mimic the PGA with and the OWGR rankings because they're like, well, you guys don't play 72 holes, so how can we
rank you? Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense for those that love the game and keep up with the game, because I think that whether it's college golf, LIV, or the Ryder Cup, there is something to team golf that really makes it special, in my opinion. And you hate for fans to cross that line, but it's good to see that there's some graciousness there on the back end.
Yeah, and I mean, I love watching individual majors, but there's something about the President's Cup, which is going to be played in 2026, and then the Ryder Cup every other year. I just love that we have 2 events that just offset each other in offsetting years, so that way there's always at least one team event. But we've got the TGL coming up, and that's going to tee off in just about a month from now. It'll be interesting to see the changes here in year 2.
Is that Jupiter, Florida, right?
Yes, in Jupiter, Florida.
Yeah, once again, back there. It's always an entertaining event as far as on television goes, and we'll see if, once again, we'll get another great product this year. Thank you so much for joining us here on Southeast Sports Plus. So we will see you next.